Shalom. I give all honor and glory praises to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, the Hakodash, and bonus to the elder, Hashem, Pastor, Great Millstone, time this truth, sincerity, citations to hopeful that the spirit of the forgiveness are there. This is going to be another video entitled, Do Not Turn Back Now and Receive the Judgment of the Wicked. And receive the judgment of the wicked, okay? And I'm going to be in Genesis, the 19th chapter, and I'm just going to, I'm going to bring out Genesis, I'm going to bring out Isaiah, so the prophet Isaiah, and then going into the Psalms, okay, just to bring out, ultimately, what happened, with you when you turn back. Which, what I mean by turn back, I mean by, a righteous man, whether woman or man, turning back to their wickedness, turning back to the ways of this earth, the ways of this world, right? Indulging in the lust of the flesh, okay, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life, all right? Because what Yahweh said in 1 John 2:16. It says 1 John 2, it says, the sub-banner reads, do not love the world. 1 John 2:15 reads, love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man, whether woman or man, loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh and the lust of the eyes and the pride of life is not of the Father, but is of the world. All right. I'm going to read that in the NLT. It says, for the world offers only a craving for physical pleasures, a craving for everything we see, in pride in our achievements and possessions. These are not from the Father, but are from this world, okay? And that's simple, right, to understand. I'm going to bring out another one before I hit Genesis. I'm going to bring out Ezekiel, the 18th chapter. Ezekiel 18:21. Ezekiel 18:24. Okay, it says, but when the righteous turneth away from his righteousness, it can be referred to a man or female, and committed iniquity, meaning sin, and doeth according to all the abominations that the wicked man doeth, shall he live? So it's a question. Shall he live? All his righteousness that he had done should not be mentioned, and his trespasses that he had trespassed, and all his sins that he had sinned, and them he should he die. Okay. Okay, and that is simple, right? If you you call yourself being in this truth, right? Sincerely and serving the Lord, right? Living, not being wicked, just being separate from this world, right? And then you go back to your wickedness, go back to committing sin, go back to just living your life, loving this world, right? All your righteousness that you did is gonna be forgotten. So all the work that you do, right, in the Lord, right, that will be forgotten, right? So you just did it for nothing, right? And you would die your sin, okay? So you will receive the judgment of the wicked, okay? So you're basically a wicked person, all right? Genesis 19:1, right? So the doom of Sodom, and we all know about the story of Sodom and Gomorrah, right? There's two wicked nations, two wicked cities, right? So Genesis 19:1 reasons there came two angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom, and Lot seeing them rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. He said, "Behold, now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early, and go your ways." And they said, "Nay, but we will abide in the street all night." I'm just gonna go to the point. So, so after the man of Sodom, came about Lot house, and they wanted to sleep with the angels, etc., etc. The next day, the next morning, the angel says, hasten Lot, saying, "Rise, take thy wife." So basically, he was rushing Lot. Okay, angels were rushing Lot, saying, "Arise, take thy wife and thy $2, and which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city," meaning the destruction. All right, so this ultimately represent right now. This represent the men of the Lord, the let women, let men, right, etc., etc. Being awoken, right, receiving the truth, right, and being spiritually awakened, and us spiritually coming out of this world, right? You know, but during this time, Lot, he was physically going out of Sodom and Gomorrah. Right now, we're spiritually coming out of Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Because the Lord likened Babylon the Great, America, to Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Because they don't receive the same destruction. And the Lord, the destruction that Sodom and Gomorrah received was what? The nuclear fire came from the chariots. There's nothing new under the sun. And while he lingered, the man laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his $2, the Lord being merciful unto him, and they brought him forth and set him without the city. And it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, "Escape for thy life, look not behind thee, neither say thou in all the plain, escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed." And Lot said unto them, "Oh, not so, my lord. Behold, now thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast made magnified thy mercy, which thou hast showed unto me in saving my life. And I cannot escape to the mountain, lest someone evil take me and I die." Behold, now, yeah. So the angel told them not to look behind thee, right? So do not turn back, okay? Do not turn back to Sodom and Gomorrah, okay? Right? So they end up escaping to a city called Zorah. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstones and fire for the Lord out of heaven, meaning the chariots. Okay, so fire and brimstone was the judgment that Sodom and Gomorrah received. And he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the city and that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. Okay, and that what happened, right? You know, if his wife became a pillar of salt, but what's going to happen if the righteous, right, after being awoken by the Lord, okay, you know, and come and basically being woken by the Lord, okay, so being called, right, and serving the Lord, but then guess what? They decide to turn back. They decide to go back into the ways of this world, right? What's gonna happen to them? Right? They don't get received. Their righteousness is gonna be forgotten, like just like in Ezekiel 18, right? Their righteousness, all their righteousness is gonna be forgotten, right? It's not gonna be mentioned, right? They're gonna be under, right? And they're gonna die in their judgment, die in their sin. Okay. So the point is, do not turn back, right? Or receive judgment of the wicked, right? Which is fire. All right. Probably gonna close it here. And Proverbs 11:21 says, "Though hand join the hand, the wicked should not be punished." Right. So those, men and women back in Sodom and Gomorrah time, they were joining hand in hand, right? They were, just doing all types of lustful and evil and adultery and idolatry and all types of sexual immorality and moral conduct within themselves to each other, right? That they didn't go punish, right? They received the fire. They received fire, right? They received a judgment of fire. Okay? They burned to death. Okay, imagine being burning to death. Okay, you know that's a slow death. Being burnt to death. Okay, being consumed by fire. Right, that's a slow and painful death. Okay, so the Lord, He wanted them to suffer. Okay, yeah. So no, that's if no matter how hard it gets, right? We have to remember, what's at stake. Okay, our soul, right? Our spirit, our bodies, ultimate crown of glory. Our crown is at stake, right? Our crown is on the line, all right? We literally have to fight for our life, okay? But the seed of the righteous shall be delivered, right? The Lord, He gonna deliver His elect, all right? He's gonna ensure that, because what He watches over the path of the righteous, okay? He gonna make sure that they are okay, just like during the time, going back to Genesis 18, right? He didn't, you know, just start bringing down fire and brimstone, right. While Lot and his wife and his daughter was still there, right? He allowed them to escape, right? So just like he gonna make sure that his elect escape from the judgment that's about to come upon Babylon the Great, right? And whatever else the Lord brings judgment, he gonna make sure they escape, right? It's first it happening spiritually, then gonna happen physically, right? So I'm gonna close it here by giving all underground praises to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahushua, by Shem Hakadash. To the next conversation.